Here's something no one tells us about losing our authority as a leader. It doesn't happen loudly. There's no meeting where someone tells us. There's no email. There's not even a formal complaint. It happens really quietly and gradually. And by the time we feel it, our team's already felt it for a while. That is authority drift. And this week, I want to talk about what it is actually costing you, because most leaders don't find out until the damage is already done. The leaders I work with who are experiencing authority drift are almost never aware that it's happening. They're showing up, they're working really hard, they genuinely care about their team, but something is quietly shifting underneath the surface. The team stops bringing them ideas. High performers just start going through the motions, and the energy in the team changes subtly but unmistakably. And here's the thing that makes authority drift so dangerous. Your team won't tell you. Think about it. Who's going to walk into their boss's office and say, "I don't think you're leading us as well as you could be"? Nobody, because that's not how teams work. So the drift just continues. And as the leader keeps showing up, working hard, genuinely caring, completely unaware that the gap between them, where they are and where they want the team to be, is growing, it's growing wider every week. And I lived this myself. I had a clear vision. I knew exactly how I wanted things done and what outcomes I wanted us all to achieve. And I thought the best way to support my team was to get in there with them, roll up my sleeves, show them I wasn't going to ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So I did, every day, hands on, right alongside them. And then at night, after my 3 little boys went to bed, I'd finally sit down and do my actual leadership work. I was really exhausted and I genuinely couldn't see what I could stop. It took one of my colleagues pointing out my calendar issues, which was her very diplomatic way of telling me I was doing too much, and then a coach asking me the right questions before I could finally see what was happening. I had drifted so far into doing mode that I wasn't leading anymore. And the most confronting part, I hadn't even considered that my team might not have found my level of involvement helpful. Who was going to tell me? I was the boss. I want to share a client story with you because it illustrates the real cost of authority drift in a way that most leaders don't see coming. This leader did everything right at the start. He had a clear vision and mission. He recruited people who were a genuine passion fit for the work, invested in proper onboarding processes, and took time to clarify processes and expectations. And for the first 5 months or so, it worked really beautifully. The new team members were engaged, they were enthusiastic, they'll bring their own ideas and initiative to the role all the time. And then something would shift. The initiative from the team members would drop off. People would start waiting to be told what to do rather than bring their own thinking. And the spark that made them great fit would quietly fade. He assumed he was slipping in recruitment. He started letting people go when they became too reliant on him. He restructured and changed direction and tried again. And the pattern kept repeating. What was actually happening was this. The onboarding was strong, but the ongoing support wasn't. The one-to-one meetings had become a really quick tick the box, focused purely on the metrics. There was no quality feedback on what was going well and no questions to understand what his team members were actually experiencing. There was no space for them to share their ideas or bring their creativity to the role. He'd become fixated on the gaps and calling them out, and he'd stopped seeing what his people had to offer. He'd become a reactive micromanager without even realizing it. It wasn't until 2 of his most senior team members threatened to leave that he reached out for coaching. And what we uncovered together was this. He had lost their respect because he wasn't respecting what they had to offer. They didn't feel valued, and when people don't feel valued, they stop bringing their best. That's what authority drift costs. Not just engagement, not just performance, it costs you the trust and respect of the people you are responsible for leading. So how do you know if your authority is drifting? There's 4 areas I look at when I'm working with a leader on this. And next week, I'm going to show you a tool that measures exactly where you stand across all 4. But for now, here's what to pay attention to. The first thing is your decisions. Are you making them clearly and standing by them? Or are you second guessing yourself, revisiting decisions, or avoid making decisions at all? The second is how you behave when you're under pressure. When things get really hard, do you head out the front to take the lead, or do you withdraw and become someone your team doesn't really recognize? The third is the standards you hold. Are you consistent, or are there standards you enforce sometimes and let others slide sometimes, depending on your mood or the situation? And the fourth is where responsibility sits. Are you holding your team accountable for their own outcomes, or are you carrying their work, solving their problems, and wondering why nothing changes? These 4 areas are where authority either builds or it erodes, and most leaders have at least one where the drift is already happening. The question is whether you're paying attention to it. Here's what I want you to do this week. Don't look at your own behavior. Look at your team's responses to you, because your team is always giving you data about your leadership. The way they engage in meetings, whether they bring you problems or solve them themselves, whether they do the minimum or they bring their best thinking. Their behavior is a mirror of your leadership. And if you don't love what you're seeing, that's not a team problem. That's a leadership signal worth paying attention to. Next week, I'm launching something that's going to help you name exactly where your authority stands right now across all 4 of those areas I just mentioned. It's free, it takes 5 minutes, and the clarity it gives you lasts a lot longer than that. So stay close, subscribe so you don't miss it. And if this landed for you today, share it with a leader in your world who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.